Hello everyone. Today I am here with the chapter of Class 11th History, Part 1, the Central Islamic Land. So, the sources to understand the history of Central Islamic Land. Semi historical works such as biographies, records of the saying and doing of the Prophet, hadith, that means, and commentaries on the Quran, tafsir, are also available. The material from which these works were produced by a large collection of eyewitnesses report transmitted over a period of time, either orally or on paper. The authenticity of each report was tested by a critical method which traced the chain of transmission and established the reliability of the narrator. Christian chronics written in Syriac or fewer, but they were throw interesting light on the history of early Islam. Beside chronic, we have legal texts, geographies, travelogues, and literary works such as stories and poems. The rise of Islam in Arabia. The Prophet Muhammad was an Arab by language and culture and a merchant by profession. The Arabs were divided into tribes such as uh, each led by a chief who was chosen partly on the basis of his family connections but more for his personal courage, wisdom, and generosity. Each tribe had its own god or goddesses who was worshipped as an idol in a shrine. Many Arab tribes were nomadic, that means Bedouins, moving from dry to green areas of the desert in search of food and fodder for their camel. Muhammad's own tribe, Quraysh, lived in Mecca and controlled the main shrine there, a cube like structure called Kaaba in which idols were placed. Even tribes outside Mecca considered the Kaaba holy and installed their own idols at this shrine, making annual pilgrimage to the shrine. Mecca was located on the crossroads. Around 612, Muhammad declared himself to the messenger of God, who had been commanded to preach that Allah alone should be worshipped. The worship involved simple rituals such as a daily prayer and moral principles such as distributing alms and abstaining from theft. The Caliphate and their contribution. After Muhammad's death in 632, no one could legitimately claim to be the next prophet of Islam. As a result, his political authority was transferred to the elder Muslims with no established principles of succession. This created opportunity for innovation. The biggest innovation was the creation of the institution of Caliphate, in which the leader of the community became the deputy or Khalifa of Prophet. The first Caliphs justified their power on the basis of their close association with the Prophet and continued his work under the general guidelines he had provided. The twin objectives of the caliphates were to retain control over the tribes constituting the community and to raise resources for the state. Abu Bakr was the first Bakr was the first caliph. Following Muhammad's death, many tribes broke away from the Islamic State. The first caliph, Abu Bakr, suppressed the revolt by a series of campaigns. Umar, the second caliph. The second caliph Umar shared the Muslims' policy of expansion of power. He realized that rich booty could be obtained from expeditionary raids The Caliph and his military commanders mustered their tribal strength to conquer land belonging to the Byzantine Empire in the west and the Sasanian Empire in the east. In three successful campaigns, Umar brought Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Egypt under the control of Arabs. Military strategies, religious fervor, and the weakness of the opposition contributed to the success of the Arabs. Uthman, the third Caliph Uthman, to extend the control to Central Asia within a decade of the death of Muhammad, the Arab Islamic State controlled the vast territory between the Egypt and Afghanistan. The third Caliph Uthman, also a Quraysh by birth, he packed his administration with his own men to secure great control. His further intensified the Meccan character of the state and the conflict with the other tribesmen. Opposition in Iran and Egypt, combined with opposition in Medina, led to the assassination of Uthman. Ali, the fourth Caliph. With Uthman's death, Ali became fourth Caliph. The rift among the Muslims deepened after Ali, who fought a two-war against those who represented the Meccan aristocracy. Ali's supporters and enemies later came to form the two main sects of Islam, Shias and Sunni. Ali established himself at Kufa and defeated an army led by Muhammad's wife in the Battle of the Camel. He was not able to suppress the faction led by the Muawiyahs, kinsmen of Uthman and the governor of Syria. Soon after, Ali was assassinated by Kharzi in a mosque at Kufa. After his death, his followers paid allegiance to his son Hussein and his descendant. Muawiyah made himself the next caliph in 661, founded the Umayyad dynasty which lasted till 750. Administrative changes introduced by the caliphs in the newly conquered territories. In all the conquered provinces, the caliphs imposed a new administrative structures headed by governors and tribal chieftains. The central treasury obtained its revenue from tax paid by Muslims as well as its share of the booty from raid. The caliph soldiers, mostly Bedouins, settled in camp sites at the edge of the desert, such as Kufa and Basra, to remain within reach of their natural habitat as well as the caliph's command. The ruling class and soldiers received share of the booty and monthly payment. The non-Muslim population retained their right to property and religious practices on payment of taxes. The Umayyad and the changes introduced by the Umayyad in politics or administration. The first Umayyad Caliph Muawiyah moved his capital from Medina to Damascus. He adopted the court ceremonies and administration institution of the Byzantine Empire. He also introduced hereditary succession, that means family succession, and persuaded the leading Muslims to accept his son as his heir. The Umayyad state was now an imperial power, no longer based directly on Islam but on statecraft and the loyalty of Syrian troops. There were Christian advisors in the administration as well as Zoroastrian scribes and bureaucrats. However, Islam continued to provide legitimacy to their rule. The Umayyad always appealed for unity and suppressed rebellions in the name of Islam. Now the changes introduced by Abdul Malik. Abdul Malik adopted Arabic as the language of administration. He introduced an Islamic coinage, the gold dinar and silver dirham, that had been circulating in the Caliphate were copies of Byzantine and Iranian coins. Abdul Abdul Malik also made a highly visible contribution to the development of an Arab Islamic identity by building the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Now, the Abbasid Revolution and changes introduced by Abbasids. The Abbasids, descendants of Abbas, the Prophet's uncle, the Abbasids portrayed the Umayyad regime as evil and promised a restoration of the original Islam of the Prophet. The Abbasid uprising broke out in the distant regions of the Khorasan, which had a mixed Arab Iranian population which could be mobilized for various reasons. The Arab soldiers in Khorasan were mostly from Iraq and resented the dominance of the Syrian. The civil urban of Khorasan disliked the Umayyads regime for having made promises of tax concession and privilege which were never fulfilled. A well-organized movement called the Dawa brought down the Umayyad and replaced them with another family of Makkah origin, the Abbasid, in 750. Their army was led by an Iranian slave, Abu Muslim, who defeated the last Umayyad Caliph, Marwan, in a battle at the river Zeb. Under Abbasid rule, Arab influence declined while the importance of Iranian culture increased. The Abbasids changed their capital from Damascus to Baghdad. The army and the bureaucracy were reorganized on a non tribal basis to ensure greater participation by people of Iraq and Khorasan. The Abbasid rulers strengthened the religious status and function of the Caliphate and patronized Islam institutions and scholars. They maintained the magnificent imperial architecture and elaborate court ceremonies of the Umayyads. Causes for the breakup of the Caliphate. In 810, a civil war broke out between supporters of Amin and Mamun, son of the Caliph Harun al Rashid, which deepened the factionalism and created a new power bloc of Turkish slave officers. A number of minor dynasties arose, such as the Tahirids and Samanids in Khorasan and Transoxania, and the Tulunids in Egypt and Syria. Abbasid power was soon limited to central Iraq and western Iran. In 945, the Bites, a Shiite clan from the Caspian region of Iran, captured Baghdad. They capped the Abbasid caliphs as the symbolic head of the Sunni subjects. The Fatimids, the descendant of Fatima, the Prophet's daughter, claimed that they were the sole rightful ruler of Islam. From their base in North Africa, they conquered Egypt in 969 and established the Fatimid Caliphate. The Turk were nomadic tribes from the Central Asia steppes who gradually converted to Islam. They were skilled riders and warriors and entered by Abbasid Samanids and uh, Buwaids administration as slaves and soldiers, rising to high position on account of their loyalty and military abilities. The rise of Sultanate. The Ghaznavid Sultan was established by Alptigin 961, and it was consolidated by Mahmud of Ghazni. Ghaznavid were a military dynasty with a professional army of Turk and Indians. Uh, the it was considered it was consolidated by Mahmud of Ghazni. The the Caliph was willing to support the Sunni Ghaznavid as a counterweight to Shiite power. The Seljuk Turks entered Turan as soldiers in the armies of the Samanids and uh, Karakhanids. They later established themselves as a powerful group under the leadership of two brothers, Tungril and Changri Beg. Taking advantage of the chaos following the death of Mahmud of Ghazni, the Seljuk Turks conquered Khorasan in 137 and made Nishapur the first capital. The Seljuks next turned their attention to the western Persia and Iraq, and in 1055 restored Baghdad to Sunni rules. The Caliph al-Qayyum conferred on Tughril Beg the title of Sultan in move that making marked the separation of religious and political authority. The two Seljuk brothers ruled together in accordance with the tribal notions of rule by the family as a whole. That's all for today. Hope you like this presentation. Thank you.